Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Oso at Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by Vincent Makori at Voice of America in Washington.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent Makori at our global headquarters in Washington, D.C. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with a look at lead poisoning associated with gold mining. Chamberlain Oso in Lagos brings you that story.
Yes, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says no country should pay for its economic prosperity with the lives of its citizens, especially children. He made this remark at the second international conference on prevention of lead poisoning associated with artisanal gold mining in Nigeria. Our correspondent Gloria Umezuke reports.
Young men digging in search of gold. Many of them are illegal miners who unknowingly mine lead. The dust from the processing contaminates the environment. In 2010, over 400 children died in an acute lead poisoning outbreak in Zamfara State, a disaster born out of poverty and ignorance.
Your Excellency.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is joining voices for more action at the second international conference on lead poisoning in Abuja.
The current efforts to tackle lead poisoning in artisanal gold mining have not been adequate. What better evidence do we have for that than the fact that the Niger State outbreak happened 5 years after we thought we had contained that problem? Indications of recontamination in previously remediated sites in Zamfara compel us to rethink and refocus our commitment and strategy to protecting our vulnerable children and communities at large. Artisanal mining and the life to enjoy the wealth from it is possible if we put in place the proper preventive measures and provide the right equipment. No country should have to pay for its economic prosperity and development with the lives and well-being of its people.
A quick remediation exercise was accomplished at the time in the affected areas, but 5 years later, in 2015, another outbreak occurred in Niger State, killing scores of children.
Considering the manpower shortage in the industry, it is only proper that we engage miners by showing them how they can benefit more.
The critical lesson we must learn is that no matter the scope of remediation treatment, there will always be some recontamination. There will always be children who do not respond to treatment.
So far, 7,200 children in the two affected states have received treatment. But the concern is more about indigents who are ignoring the dangers of mining gold by continuously using unsafe mining methods.
Stiffer surveillance methods as well as punitive measures for illegal license holders responsible for these outbreaks have also been proffered as a solution by states to end the menace of lead poisoning in the country. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Joining us to talk about treatment and prevention of lead poisoning is Enviro strategist Dr. Paul Abolo. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Now, it turns out that about 7,200 Nigerian children, we understand, have been treated for remediation ever since the unfortunate scenario in Zamfara State in 2010. Could you tell us, what kind of symptoms should we be looking out for to prevent this kind of outbreak?
Before we talk about the symptoms, let's understand what the lead poison is. Lead is a very heavy metal, and when people breathe it in or ingest it, it's very toxic, and it could do a whole lot of stuff to the health system. So talking about the symptoms, the first symptoms that you notice is high fever and convulsing, and people tend to think that is malaria because malaria is prevalent in this area. But if you go a little bit further, you'll find that there's an aggressive behavior that goes with that. You find some irritations, you find vomiting, you find abdominal pains. And besides that, you will find that in children, there are developmental delays. You know, they have problems in learning. And so once you begin to get to those stages, you can pinpoint it.
Is it so difficult to prevent exposure?
It's not difficult. As a matter of fact, if you want to talk about prevention, you need to look at policy and practice. So you need to look at what are the policies in place and how do you deal with the practices that follow it. We understand that children are most vulnerable to it, and you find that they engage children in those illegal minings. So you need to take that out, one. Two, you need to look at the artisan miners. How are they engaging in the processes? So when you get into that, then you need to look at the major issue, which is awareness, sensitization, and between...
Is that in two parts? On the part of those who mine illegally and how to prevent yourself being exposed to it?
No, I'm going to take it down to that now. They need to understand, because they don't understand. They don't understand the dangers that they are exposed to. So you need to create some level of awareness, and you need to create some sensitization. And in between the awareness and sensitization, of course, poverty. Poverty. So there comes sustainable development. You need to give them alternatives so they will understand that in dealing with the dangers they're exposed to, they have something else to do.
So that will be for those who engage in illegal mining?
Yes.
For economic purposes?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a tough one to take a look at here, but because there have always been questions about what kind of policies should we be looking at putting in place to ensure first we take away or prevent people from going in and mining illegally?
Yes, if you check the primary cause, it's stated that it's unregulated mining. So you need to regulate it. You need to know those who are the miners. Then the miners need to be taught. They need to be engaged to use the latest and the current processes and equipment. They need to be equipped. So I expect a stronger regulation. But apart from regulation, we also need to create alternatives again, because you cannot have regulation to be that effective if there are no alternatives.
So for Enviro strategists like yourself, looking through the whole process and given what you've seen, are you frustrated or encouraged by what you've seen?
I'm encouraged, highly encouraged with what I've seen, because this first happened in 2010, and then in 2012, there was this international conference on this, even though it reoccurred again in 2015, and now we are having the second edition of the conference, which is purely addressing these issues. So I'm highly encouraged with the steps that have been taken to contain it.
So what about on a broader scale? Do you think that, are you satisfied with the measures that government has put in place to ensure that at least artisanal mining and development is properly taken care of?
The federal government is doing a tremendous amount of work on that. Take gold, for example. There's this national gold scheme. There's also a national gold purchasing scheme. What they have with that is that they are actually creating a multi-stakeholder engagement. In this way, they will bring in both the miners, bring in the buyers, just along the value chain. Thereby, they will be able to educate the people. They will be able to get some level of control, you know. And then on the other side, you'll find that they are also bringing in equipment, like the federal government recently acquired a 26,000 line kilometer electromagnetic equipment in the mining industry. They just finished the characterization of the kaolin in Ekiti State. So they are really doing some tremendous amount of work in this industry.
We'll leave it on that good note then. Dr. Paul Abolo, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, investing in our girls. We'll see how educating girls is an effective way to sustain development.